Good morning, everyone, and welcome. My name is Kathy Shader, and I am a consultant with the Marshfield Clinic Health System and the Wisconsin After School Network. I've been moderating this series of webinars. We are pleased to be offering this learning series with the Marshfield Clinic Healthcare System and the Wisconsin Department of Administration. Today's webinar is the last of a 5-part series for day camp programs in the state of Wisconsin. The series was developed in consultation with leadership from the American Camp Association Wisconsin, Local Council of Leaders, and the Wisconsin After School Network. And today we are pleased to have Dr. Teresa Tucker join us to present this morning's webinar, and I will introduce her in a moment. Just a few housekeeping reminders before we begin. Please keep your microphones on mute. If you have questions, we ask you to post those in the chat box, which the Marshfield Clinic staff will be monitoring. Teresa, do you want questions throughout the presentation, or do you want to take them at the end?
I'm fine throughout. Totally
Okay,
fine.
So I will monitor that. I also know you can see the chat box. So as a reminder, this presentation is being recorded and will be sent to all registered participants in the next week. Teresa W. Tucker, a PhD, is a senior lecturer in PRTM. Help me out. I'm not going to remember what PRTM.
Parks, Recreation, Tourism Management.
And coordinator of their EDGE program, which stands for Engaged in Diverse and Guiding Experiences at Clemson University. Her research interests include undergraduate curriculum development, professional development for camp staff, youth development, and inclusive recreation experiences for people with disabilities. Teresa has worked as a camp professional for over 30 years and continues to volunteer primarily at camps that serve children and adults with disabilities and chronic illnesses. She has led educational sessions and conducted staff trainings at the regional, national, and international level. Teresa has also served as a longtime volunteer with the American Camp Association, and I'm pleased and privileged to have her here today. I've known her a long time. I don't think it's been quite 30 years, but it's probably close.
It's close. Yes, it's definitely close.
And so Teresa, I now turn this over to you.
Oh, awesome. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. So this is a new adventure for me. I have not done WebEx before, and so I appreciate y'all coming on this journey with me. So I'm going to get situated a little bit so I can see the chat. Excellent. So yeah, so this webinar is about reinventing the wheel, looking at creative day camp programming. And so really want to think about, a lot of times you're told not to reinvent the wheel, but sometimes you really do want to reinvent the wheel because you're going to make it better and better. So if you look at this picture, it kind of shows reiterations of the wheel. All right, so kind of taking that idea of how we can take our wheel, or how we can take our programs and reinvent them and add that creative twist to them. All right. So yeah, so Kathy introduced me a little bit. So I actually just got a promotion to principal lecturer. So I just got to put that on. This is the first time I've got to use that title. But yeah, so I have been involved in camp for a very long time, and I've done pretty much everything that you could do role at camp. But one of the things that is like kind of my niche is programming. So programming is like my jam. I teach that here at Clemson. I love to talk about programming. I love to see what other people do about programming. One of the reasons why I became a accreditation visitor for the American Camp Association is that I get the chance to check out other people's programs and see all the different and cool things people are doing. All right, so I want to know a little bit about y'all. So as you can probably tell from the y'all, I am not from Wisconsin. And I am currently in South Carolina. But if y'all could go ahead and annotate, and on this map, go ahead and put where your day camp organization is located.
Right, and Teresa, I'm going to jump in. So if you look at the layout of your screen, what I see as a participant on this session is there's a layout button, and directly below that there's a squiggly line that says annotate, and it says request to annotate. You want to click on that, and Teresa will give you that permission. I'm assuming you'll see that, Teresa. And
Yep.
so I'll jump in and just share with you that I am right in, oops, got to pick the pencil. I live right in here. There we go. I'm seeing a couple on there.
Oh yeah, there you go.
Yeah, so to the north of me, I would tell you that's up near Wausau. To the east of me, that's what we would consider close to the Fox Valley. It's close to Green Bay. To the south, it looks like Madison. And to the west, I'm not going to remember which county that is, but Jen, do you know which county that is in turquoise? That's not Marshfield. I think that's too far north of Marshfield, but it's
I don't know what that is.
not in the Fox Valley. That's great.
Yeah, very cool. All right. Well, thank y'all for doing that. Oh, someone just tried to hop on there. So it just gives me a good idea. So y'all are spread out in different parts of the state. So that's awesome. All right. So how do I stop annotate? Oh, here we go. We're going to go and clear all. Excellent. Hold on one second. Thank you for your patience. All right. So we are going to have a chat, but we're going to have a super chat. So it's not just a chat, but a super chat. So what a super chat is I'm going to give you an item. I'm going to ask you a question, and I would like for you to type the answer into the chat box, but do not hit send. Okay? So I'm going to give you a statement. I'm going to ask you to answer it. Type your answer in a chat box, but please do not send. Because in a minute, not yet, I will have a countdown and I will tell you when to hit send. And when I say send, then you will send your response. Okay, any questions about that? So I don't see any questions in the chat. All right, so we're going to go ahead and try this. Here we go. Name of your organization or program. So go ahead, type it in the chat. Don't hit send yet. So go ahead and type it in the chat. Give you a moment. So type in the chat, but don't hit send yet. And here we go. That's okay. Totally fine. All right, here we go. 3, 2, 1, send. All right, so a couple of YMCA camps, a community center, YMCA, Girl Scouts, excellent. Lots of Ys, very cool. All right. Well, thank you for joining us. Okay, now you know what the super chat is. We're going to do another one. Here we go. Biggest challenge with programming and activities. Again, type it in there, but don't hit send. Biggest challenge with programming and activities. Type it in the chat, but don't hit send yet. Okay, here we go. 3, 2, 1, send. Enough staff. Staffing, that definitely is an issue. Location, behavior, yep. Staffing, keeping everybody happy, lack of space, resources, staffing. Okay, so yeah, so staffing is one of those things that I'm hearing from camps all across the country in terms of that they're really kind of struggling with. And again, that, not being able to please everyone, right? So somebody not liking an activity, I totally get that as well. Okay, so based on what we know about the title of this and the description of this session in terms of looking at um, creative ways to do activities, here's the last super chat. What's one thing you want to get out of this session? Okay, so we're looking at how to do activities with a creative twist. So what's one thing you want to get out of this session? Again, type it in, but don't send it yet. Okay, here we go. 3, 2, 1, send. New ways to engage, quick thinking, decision making. All right. How to make activities relevant, fun ideas, structuring ideas. Very cool. How to help lessen staff workload, how to make old activities new. We're going to talk a lot about that. Ideas to reinvigorate our camp. Very cool. All right. So hopefully we're going to hit on some of this, at least give you some takeaways that you can use for the upcoming camp season. Thank you so much for participating in that. So what I would like for you to do right now is on a piece of paper, if you have one next to you, I want you to draw a question mark. All right, so just hand draw a question mark. Okay. And thinking about where did you start? So where did you start when you made that question mark? So for example, let me see if I can get up here. So if you can see my pointer cursor right here, most of us start right here, right? We start here and we go all the way down and then we add the point. Okay? That's where most of us start, right here, and then we add the point. With programming, with designing activities, you actually want to start with the point first. All right, and I'm going to explain that a little bit. So you want to start with the point first and then build up. Okay, with the questions. So thinking about what is the point of this activity? So what's the point of your activity? What is the point of your program? Why are we doing this? Right? So what is the reason behind what you were doing? Like, you know, the big picture, but as well as that smaller picture of why are we doing this activity here at camp? And then how does this contribute to youth development? So how does this activity, how does this game, how does this program contribute to youth development? So these are the questions, right? You're going to start with this, and then you get question up. Because intentionality is the key, all right? So to any successful programming, intentionality is what matters, all right? So a good friend of mine, Michael Brandwine, talks about this idea of an intentional camp. And I'm going to connect that to programming in just 1 second. So regardless of the specific mission of your organization, all of y'all are youth serving organizations. And so thinking about that we all have kind of this mission to use activities and programs for positive youth development, right? We're helping young people grow and we're helping them develop different kinds of skills. And so he talks about this idea of level 1 skills and knowledge, and then level 2 skills. So level 1 skills are like learning how to tie different kinds of knots, learning how to do archery, learning, you know, those kind of like those you actually, when you do the activity kind of thing. But then there's that deeper level of skill development, and that's building great qualities in youth, right? And that's the most important, because once you help develop those skills, it actually helps that level 1 skill as well. All right. So what are those skills? And I'm going to ask y'all to put this in the chat, and you can, it's not a super chat, so you can just go ahead and put it in your reply. So what are those great qualities that we want to build in youth? What are those great qualities that we want to build in youth? So these could be like any kind of positive character traits, social emotional skills. What? Yeah, excellent. Responsibility, leadership, teamwork, respect, honesty, like integrity. Very good. Trust. All right. So yeah, so those are those qualities, right? Resilience, independence, sportsmanship, stewardship, lots of stuff that we, you know, curiosity, creativity. Those are the things that we want to build in our youth. And guess what? Our programs and activities are the mechanism we use to do that. And sometimes we forget that that's what they're there for, right? So thinking about like camp is where, you know, when kids talk about camp, kids talk about where, you know, this is a quote, camp is where they learn to be about me. They're facing fears, trying new things, pushing boundaries, and accepting, right? And a lot of y'all know that, right? You know that from your experiences in this field. And so thinking about, again, that role that plays in for youth. So trying thinking about like, okay, so here we are. Y'all are getting ready to do like that first day of camp, and the energy is high, that people are excited, right? And then thinking about this idea of, but once we get to the end of camp, right? And a lot of things that what happens is that in between piece. And, you know, I saw one in the chat that someone has said, you know, how to reinvigorate camp. So maybe that we're not quite at this bottom piece right here at the last day of camp. All right. So what I'd like for you to do, so I'm going to ask Colton to put y'all in breakout rooms of about 3 or 4 people. And I want you to share with each other, number one, introduce yourselves to each other. So your name and kind of your organization. And then I would like for each of y'all to share your most unusual, craziest, or coolest activity or program that you have done in your camp or are planning to do at your camp. Great. All right. So hopefully y'all got to meet somebody or a couple of people for the first time and able to share some of your most unusual, craziest, or coolest activity at camp. And so what I'd like for y'all to do is I asked Colton to kind of let y'all know to pick a spokesperson to share that, so you can unmute your mic to share what your what your group came up with.
I can share. This is Shane from La Crosse.
Okay.
And sounds like what we were all sharing kind of a little bit of a common theme where we're offering an opportunity for kids to take a deeper dive into a specific area of learning, and then
Right.
mixed with something that I am super excited to try, messy camps or muddy gaga ball. So I just an opportunity for kids to, like, I remember sitting in the middle of puddles when I was little, and like now that just doesn't happen. So an opportunity for kids to just be a mess. So
Yeah.
the description was, we get them muddy, we hose them off, we send them home. So, so
I like that. I like
yeah,
that.
yeah, I do too.
Like kids literally getting their hands dirty, right? So
yeah. There was a mention of water balloons, shaving cream, and muddy gaga ball pits. So,
oh yeah, that sounds actually really creative with Muddy Gaga Ball. Gaga's
yes.
huge at a camp I volunteer at. So man, that would take it definitely to the next level. Great. Thank you for sharing, Shane. All right, someone else? Another group?
I can go for our group.
Okay, awesome.
My name's Megan. I'm from the Nina Y. We talked about a variety of things, but one of the things we ended up talking about longest was something that we actually do at our camp, called counselor challenges. So,
Okay.
the kids kind of sit in a specific area and they watch the counselors do these cool challenges, and the kids really get into it. We do like blind taste testing, the name game, some like athletic type of games. So the kids just get to see their counselors being like silly and embarrass themselves, and it's really exciting for the kids. They laugh and they just get a huge kick out of it.
Oh, very cool. Well, some of the things about, when kids have the opportunity to see counselors be silly, like everybody, all the kids tend to think counselors are the cool kids, which they are, right? They're the coolest people. And so when they see the coolest people they know doing silly things, and they're more comfortable doing silly things themselves. So, kind of setting that example of that it's okay to be silly, right? Thank you very much for sharing, Megan. All right, another group. I know there were 4 groups, so we got 2 more.
I can go for our group. This is Emily. I work with the Girl Scouts. I've worked at both our day camp and our resident camp. And one of what I shared is that for our day camp, we do occasional overnights. And what was the coolest activity and program is that it was at the end of summer, and it was our overnight on a Thursday night. The kids were getting kind of tired, and so were the counselors. So we did a glow party. So it was dark. So it was end of August. So it got darker earlier. One of the counselors brought in a Bluetooth speaker. We gave them all glow sticks and popsicles, and it was just a lot of fun. And it was something that was completely unplanned, but it worked out really well, and everybody seemed to really enjoy it. And so we just kind of talked about different activities that you do that aren't necessarily planned, but they end up being really cool, and all the kids really enjoy it.
Yeah, and I think that's a great point, right? So sometimes the best stuff is it just happens. I'll tell you a quick story. I invented a game called Candy Wrapper Orange Juice. And how this got invented was a couple years ago, I had friends come over for Easter brunch. And so we had orange juice, right, and eggs, and we had Easter candy. And after we ate brunch, we were kind of all hanging out talking, and we took the empty orange juice bottle and we took a candy wrapper and we put the orange juice bottle at one end. And at the other end, we stood there and everybody took a turn and took their candy wrapper and tried to get it inside the orange juice bottle, right? And it turned into this, like, it was totally kind of spontaneous, and it turned into this thing, right? And then we started doing it like fairly, like every time we had brunch, we would kind of do it. So yeah, that's a great point about how kind of things, you know, the circumstances are like, hey, let's just have this glow party, right? We got glow sticks. We got music. Let's do this. Great. All right. Another group? Well, I think we have one more group. What'd y'all come up with?
My name is Sierra. I'm from Red Caboose. One of our one of our activities or that we do is called Mission Impossible. It's kind of like an obstacle course,
Okay.
but the kids are not allowed to talk, so they have to kind of use other forms of communication with each other. And the goal of the game is to build teamwork or team building skills and other ways to like communicate. But it's like really fun because once they start talking or if they mess up they have to go back, but they kind of learn to like support each other. And another thing that we do, we have a theme for our summer camp, and it's called Mess Fest. So like the whole week the kids are trying like weird and dirty and like messy activities like for the whole week. And then yeah.
Wow. Yeah, I like that idea of the obstacle course with no verbal communication and having to be creative and trying to think of different ways to communicate. And I'm sensing a little theme about the mess fest, the messiness. I love that. Yeah, it's a great opportunity for, again, kids to be really kind of, engage, like getting involving all their senses, like the feel and the smell and the touch, all that stuff. Very cool. All right. Well, thank y'all for sharing. All right. So a lot of that, you guys have some really great ideas for some creative programming and some activities. So thinking of when we're thinking, because sometimes the I guess the enemy of creativity is boredom, right? Because once we start becoming predictable, okay, and we don't want to be predictable all the time, and so we really want to think about it this way, redo activities in a different way. And y'all shared some ideas of how to redo activities that you already do in a slightly different way. All right, so creativity is the goal. So if you think about the fact that we're focused on building kids, right? Building qualities in kids. So kickball should be more than kickball, finger painting more than finger painting. It's more than a walk in the woods, right? It's more than doing the obstacle course. Thinking about what is that creative twist? What is that connection to what you're trying to do, the skills that you're trying to build for youth? And then what makes it fun? Right. So I always tell people that fun is the byproduct of programming, right? So good programming, the fun just comes out. So we're gonna practice this a little bit. So this is a coffee filter. And it actually, I couldn't find one in my office because we have Keurigs now, but a coffee filter. So what I'd like for y'all to do is I'm going to give you I'll give you about 2 minutes, and I would like for you to, don't start yet. I would like for you to think about all the different ways that you can use this coffee filter. Okay, so all the different ways, so you can write it down, jot them down if you have them in your head. Think about that. I'm getting my timer ready here. All right, 2 minutes. So jot down or type down some ideas. So on your mark, get set, go. So all the things you could do with a coffee filter, all the uses you can have. You have 1 minute. See how many different uses you have for this coffee filter. All the different ways it can be used. Okay, 30 seconds. All right, here we go. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, stop. All right, so what I'm gonna oh, there we go. What I'm gonna have y'all do right now is I'm gonna have Colton put y'all back in breakout rooms, and you might be with different people, so please reintroduce yourself to the people in the room. And I want y'all to talk quickly about all the different ideas that you had about how to use a coffee filter. If there are any repeats, cross them off your list. So if someone else in your group says the same thing that you did, cross off your list. And so I'm going to give you all about 5 minutes to come up with your group list of ways to use the coffee filter. All right. So Colton, if you wouldn't mind, go ahead and putting them in breakout rooms. All right, welcome back. So what I'd like for y'all to do is I want y'all to put some of your ideas that you had for the coffee filter in the chat. All right, so go ahead and put some of your ideas in there. So what y'all as a group kind of talked about. Craft use, okay. Parachute, I like it. Oh, tie-dye butterfly, lots of peace sign, colorful snowflakes, parachutes, monster eyes, color blending. Thinking all the different things that you could use for that. Any other ideas that y'all came up with? You could use it as a hat, right? So thinking those kinds of things. Yeah, where's that? Oh, Megan's already got that. Yep. So again, thinking about all the different things that could be used. Wheels. Oh, I like that. Yes. You could use it as a bow tie. Lots of different things that you could use. Again, taking that one thing, a basket. Very cool. Anything else that y'all came up with? Plate, umbrella. Awesome. All right, so thinking about, taking something that you normally use and see, and it has, you think it has a specific purpose, but how you can repurpose something, right? So repurposing your activities, repurposing your ideas. So thinking about how to add, again, those creative twists. So elements to consider when you're adding creative twists to things. So you can think about the equipment used, right? So you might, to add a creative twist, change the equipment that's used. For example, we here play a game on Thanksgiving Day called Flickerball. And Flickerball basically is Ultimate Frisbee, but instead of using an Ultimate Frisbee, we use a Nerf football with a tail on it. So you can actually Google Nerf football with tail and it'll show you that. That's what we use. But the rules are Flickerball, or the rules are Ultimate Frisbee rules, but our piece of equipment that we use is different. All right, so thinking about the materials that you use, you can change that up. Thinking about the environment or the location of an activity and changing that or modifying that. So for example, it's something that you do typically on land, think about maybe doing it in the water, all right? Or for example, Foursquare. Foursquare, typically you'd play on like a flat top, black top. And actually there's a game called Nine Square where you actually play, the rules are very similar to Foursquare, but you actually play it in air with a kind of PCP piping as that makes out the squares. Yeah, Nine Square and awesome. Yeah, it is so awesome, right? So again, changing kind of location and setting. You can also change the rules. That's a really great way to kind of have that creative twist in terms of changing the rules. You can have it so that if a camper gets to this point, they get to create a rule, right? So you can have them involved in changing the rules. You can have, for example, in kickball, every third kicker has to skip to the base, right? So again, changing what those rules are. And that's a great way to get campers involved in how to change the rules of the game. All right. Another part is that you could also have this idea of fantasy. So, for example, Kathy and I were talking beforehand about rock, paper, scissors, which is a great game. And I'm sharing with her that in my household, that we play that game all the time to decide who's going to do what, like who's going to take out the garbage. We rock, paper, scissors. But thinking about an imaginative twist, and you might have already done this, but the idea of, for example, using like giants, elves, and wizards. So it's still the same concept of rock, paper, scissors, right? But you're using that kind of a different kind of context. Okay, you're using giants, elves, and wizards instead. So again, that imaginative context of it. And then thinking about the goal that you're trying to accomplish, like the goal of the game. So for example, an idea of adding creative twist would be like for musical chairs. So in musical chairs, the idea is to eliminate people, right? So the idea is to come down to one person, one chair, and eliminate everybody else. Okay. A way to change that goal is, what if you made that goal more about see how many people can, so you don't eliminate anybody, but the idea is that for, again, always keeping it safe, keeping how many people, again, the object is to have everybody sit when it's called, right? So it might be sitting, that you're sitting on, there's stacks of people sitting kind of on each other or touching each other if you don't want to have people sitting on each other, right? So it's to keep everybody connected as opposed to eliminating people. And then already thinking about the flavor of the game, right? So how do you take something that tends to be a competitive game and twist it so maybe it's a cooperative game instead, right? So these are just a little bit of some ideas of elements that you could take from an activity and you could put a creative twist on it, right? So just to kind of think about those things. So I'm going to have y'all do a little practice. So I want you to see, so soccer, all right? So based on kind of what I just said and based on some of your own experiences in taking creative twist, I'm going to put you back, or Colton's going to put you back in breakout rooms. And for 4 minutes, I want y'all to put a creative twist on soccer and share, and each group is going to share what their creative twist to soccer is. All right. And what did they twist to make it creative? Okay. Everybody understand their mission? So you're going to put a creative twist to soccer. And then someone from your group's going to share. It should be somebody different who hasn't shared yet. And then you're going to share your creative twist. All right. So Colton, I'm going to give y'all 4 minutes to do that. So Colton, could you please put them in breakout rooms for me? All right, welcome back. I hope I'm looking forward to hearing your creative twists to soccer. So who would like to share first? Your group.
I can go first. One of the ones we talked about is as a soccer player in a past life, and kids don't really like soccer when they're first learning, but we've done it like at our camp. We do it where we'll modify the rules. Like we'll do it like a really big soccer field with a really big goal, or a really small goal or small field. We'll modify like only the certain players can use their hands, or like the goalie can't use their hands. We'll modify it. We also have a giant soccer ball out at our camp that the kids love to play with. I don't exactly know why, because it's hard to kick, but the kids love it. So we'll bring that out every once in a while to get them super excited. When we use a soccer ball, sometimes the giant one, sometimes we'll tell them that they can only use their hands, they can't use their feet, or they have to like run with one hand behind their back. Just things to get them a little bit more challenged and creative in how we present it to them.
Yeah, no, those are some great ideas in terms of like, getting them engaged in soccer, right? And so it can look all different kinds of ways, the size of the field, the size of the goal, the size of the ball. Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing. All right, another group?
I can share. My name is Kanisha. I'm from the Wine Heart of the Valley. We were talking about also a big ball, or maybe use a balloon with water. So instead of kicking it, maybe tossing it.
Okay.
Also in the goal area, maybe put different sizes hula hoops. So whichever they go, they have different points. Of course, the tiniest, they have more points.
Yeah.
And maybe use like an enclosed or indoor soccer field.
Okay.
inside a clear ball, put glow sticks, and they can play like that. So yeah.
Oh, yeah. Oh, some really great variations of that game. Awesome. Thank you. All right. Another
Yeah.
group?
Some things we talked about in our group were sand soccer. So instead of playing in the field, playing out in the sand pit instead. Using a balloon instead of a soccer ball, or using your hands instead of your feet. We play a game called World Cup sometimes, where you're broken out into teams of 2 and you're assigned a country. So it's a tournament. We can do crab soccer, where instead of normal soccer, you're doing the crab walk.
Yeah, that's intense, man.
That
totally works the core right there.
Yes, exhausting for sure. And then freeze tag soccer.
Oh, okay. Awesome. All right. And the last group? What'd y'all come up with?
We came up with using a balloon instead of a soccer ball, and using their hands only and having them be stationary. So teamwork is key to making a goal.
Almost like well, we actually did human foosball, right? So again, having to stay in place. So you could also think about having multiple goals, right? Instead of just 1 goal or 2 goals, right? What if you had like 5 goals? Or if you had more than 1 soccer ball, using more than 1 ball. So again, great ideas in terms of how to take soccer and put that little twist on there to keep them engaged. So thank y'all so much for sharing. So when we're thinking about creative twists, all right, something to keep in mind is you want to do it with a KISS. And KISS stands for keep it splendidly simple, right? So a lot of the ideas that y'all came up with were very simple things to do, very simple ways to change an activity and to make it creative, make it interesting, make it new to the campers, right? So keep those things in mind when you're trying to come up with creative twists. It doesn't have to be complicated, right? Keep it splendidly simple. And so thinking about some ideas of how to do that. All right. So again, thinking about things that you already know and familiar with, and making those connections. So I know that some of y'all talked about the use of themes, right? So this is from the spring break day camp that my students did this past about a month ago. And again, keeping that idea of theme and running that theme through your activities. Some of y'all already talked about some themes that you use at camp, right? So but again, keeping that idea of themes in there. So this theme for the spring break day camp was idea about like puzzles and games. And so each day was a different kind of focus. So some of them were strategy games. Some of them were different kinds of games in terms of thinking ahead. And so some of them were like puzzle games. So again, thinking about how those, again, using that idea of theme, and a lot of camps do theme, but really working that theme throughout your activities. Also, an example is I just kind of shared with you, we did human foosball. So again, we had PCP piping and they were anchored down, and campers had to hold on to the bar, the PCP bar, right? So they couldn't take their hands off of it. And again, it just was like soccer. Someone just shared a little bit ago, kind of foosball, but again, it was like real life people, and we had boundaries and all those things. Another example, I'm going to show you this. The sound might be, the sound's really not important. It's just more like background music, but show you an example of, again, taking some things that are maybe 2 different things and kind of mashing them together. So again, this idea of keeping this idea of kind of keeping it simple, but also kind of mashing some things together. And so when we're thinking about creating ways to be creative, and we really want to encourage staff and to train staff how to do creative twists to things, we want to encourage campers to do creative twists to things. But one of the things to think about, or have them think about before they do something, is thinking about the 4 S's. And so Beth Allison talks about this, and this idea of, is it safe, right? So again, safety is the number one more important thing, because you can't have fun if you're not safe, right? And so also, is it a good stewardship of our resources? So for example, I have sometimes I've had staff in the past who think it's like a great way to have a food fight, but is that really the best use of our resources, is to have that kind of food fight, right? Are we being really good stewards of our resources? Does it build self-esteem? So thinking about the qualities that we want to build in campers, the qualities that we want to help develop in staff as well, does it do that, right? Does it contribute to that? And then, are we being a servant to others? So are you putting other people's needs before your own? So again, thinking about, giving particularly staff, you want to encourage them to be creative in their activities and their ideas and their games, but also keeping those things in mind, right? And so thinking about some resources, again, you don't necessarily have to reinvent the wheel, no pun intended, but there are lots of resources out there to help make your programs, activities creative, or help you bring in new program activities. So one thing I want to share with you is, I have lots of different things on here, but the one down here at the bottom, your campers. So your campers can be really, really creative, and giving them the opportunity to express that. So one thing could be that, for example, the idea of bag skits. So you put a bunch of stuff in a bag, and you give it to the campers, and they have to come up with a skit about, and they have to use everything in the bag, right? Or taking the idea of, you're sitting around with your cabin and giving them a soccer ball, right? And having them come up with a game involving the soccer ball. So again, don't underestimate or don't underutilize your campers, and have them contribute to adding some creativity to your program and activities. Some camps even have like a camper council, where they're the representative body of the campers, and they actually contribute ideas of ways to add creativity or add twists to programs and activities. Another resource is your staff, right? A lot of them come up with some great ideas about how to do something. The challenge is that sometimes we have to help them think through about that safety issue, right? And seeing that bigger picture. But again, incorporating your staff into contributing and challenging them how to make things creative, how to add those creative twists, how to add those little surprises, so that way people are engaged, or more likely to be engaged. And I also think about, again, professional opportunities like this. There are also camp Facebook groups that share ideas, and they're more than willing to share all the different things that they do, and they love to see what other people do. So again, thinking about that, networking. And then one thing I always tell people is that Google is your friend. And so there are tons of resources. Again, you don't necessarily have to take every little bit of it, but you can take bits and pieces of those things to create what you want to create for your program, and what's going to meet the needs of your camp and your campers. And so I'm going to share just really quickly, like, for example, this is, and I'm more than willing to share the links to these resources, and this is just a couple. So looking at camp activities, if you click on this page or this link, it takes you to a whole bunch of other places for ideas, rainy day ideas. This one is a pretty good one. This one has 24, you can download them PDFs about all these different games that actually do social distancing, right? So, but they're fun, flexible. They have, again, using equipment. This is great, has instructions, and there's ways to modify things. So that's kind of a way to help, again, add that kind of twist. One of my favorite ones that I use a lot, or at least I look at a lot, is this Ultimate Camp resource. And it has a ton of stuff. It divides it by categories. It asks you, people contribute it, so they're building this, right? So this is actually a kind of a collective of people from all over kind of sharing their ideas about different activities, different games, different songs, skits, stuff like that. So again, utilizing those resources that are out there. And I more than happy to share that. Yep, there is that summer camp professional group. Yep. They actually post a lot of good stuff. They have also like they share ideas about, again, staff recruitment. They share ideas about marketing. They share lots of different ideas. Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and I'll put, here's the Ultimate Camp, that link in the chat, and then camp activities. I'll put that link. And let's see, this one, put that one in there. Again, lots of resources out there for you. So in some ways, you don't have to reinvent the wheel. All right, so I kind of given you some tools that you can use, and some of them you might have already known about, but again, trying to rethink about how you do things. All right, so does anybody have any questions that they'd like to share, ask? Feel free to put it in the chat. You're more than welcome to say it out loud. All right, so what I'm going to ask you right now is I want you to think of one takeaway that you got from our time together, and then I want you to think of one action step that you're going to do, all right, based on the content of this webinar. All right, so I want you to think of one takeaway and then one action step. All right. And what I'm going to do, this is going to be our last super chat. So I want you to type it in, but don't send yet. So one takeaway and one action step. One takeaway and one action step. I'll give you about 30 seconds. All right, 3, 2, 1, go. Send it in the chat. Okay, use counselors to help. Good. Resource links, other takeaways, action step, using this at staff training. Yes, please do. Getting counselors to help. Excellent. All right. Well, I know I've done a little bit early, but I really want to thank y'all. I want to thank y'all for being engaged in the breakout rooms. Thank y'all for being engaged in the chat. Again, hopefully, please use those resources that are out there. And I hope that y'all have a fantastic summer. And yeah, I wish you all the best.
Super. Well, thanks, Teresa. I think that was just excellent. And, you know, it's not always a bad thing if we get a little more time back in our day anyhow, because the content was great. And I think a lot of great ideas to consider. And I mean, I'm like writing down all kinds of things. So it was really great. So if you all have further questions regarding today's webinar, please email the Wisconsin After School Network and let us know. More information about a series of professional development opportunities in addition to this learning series can be found on the After School Network website. This is the last day camp webinar series for the academic year. Stay tuned to the Wisconsin After School Network for more information about upcoming professional development following your summer program, including the Wisconsin Out of School Time Conference, November 1st and 2nd in Wisconsin Dells. Yes, back in person. Actually, the November 1st is going to be a half-day frontline virtual for frontline staff. So it'll be virtual for frontline staff. November 2nd will be full day in person in Wisconsin Dells. Teresa, can you stay on a short while if somebody's got specific questions for you?
Yeah.
Super. And for the rest of you, thank you for your participation in today's webinar and for the work you do on behalf of the children and families in the state of Wisconsin, and have a safe and fun summer. Enjoy your day.